So this is Jabali Studio, of course. So there's just a couple of panels here, and I'm just going to quickly give you an outline of what those are. And again, all of this will be covered in the masterclass tomorrow, but in much, much more detail than what I'm going to be doing now. So you can see all your projects that you've worked on in the past by going to the Your Projects pane. If you used a template, so like this is early on in the studio when we only had template games. So if you used a template, you'll see the name of the template here. If you used wipe code or create from scratch, then that's basically what you'll uh, see on the tag over here. You'll also see all the templates, the starter templates that we have available. So these are the games that you can build on the web as well on Jabali. So if you want to like create any of these games like the racer game or a character simulation like a walking around shooting people kind of game or whatever, or interactive story game, you can like use one of those templates and Bali will kind of start building and putting together the assets that it knows that that template specifically needs. Once those templates are built, you can always go into those games and like keep making modifications. So you can like go into this game and be like, okay, I actually don't want the I want this to be like a snowy world, change all the grass to snow. I don't like this tree, give me another tree. Here's leaves that put in and so on, or like I change the character, so on and so forth. So you can always like edit things that are in these games. um these are some of the games that the community is working on. So right now these are kind of sorted by most recent. So like this is probably something someone is literally working on right now in the game. However, or in studio that they just published or whatever, we are planning on kind of like breaking this down into like featured games as well, so that you can kind of see what the more polished games that people have worked on in studio are. So we should probably have that in the next build that we send out. And then over here is our learn section or our tutorial section. And I've worked on most of these like most of these tutorials are I think made by me. So they should give you a really good overview of like go through them. They're all like YouTube tutorials. They should give you a really good overview of what Jabali Studio is, how you kind of create a game from scratch using a tutor template or otherwise, like changing those games, modifying your Frogger game, whatever. uh, I also built let's see, this is a tower defense game, and then there was an alchemy game that I made, which I can actually show you guys. But yeah, those are what we have so far in the Learn Studio side of things. Oh, we also have some settings and stuff that you can tweak and modify. So, I mean, not this. I'll show you the settings within the game. This is just your general settings with respect to what your username is or how long you've been here. But let me go back to the settings within the game because I think that's m- more important. Let's take a look at a game. I was in debug mode for this game, so which is why it looks the way it does. But let's if you go to the settings of the game, you'll see besides the plugins over here, like you have the name, the description of the game, poster for the game, and so on. But you also have this AI settings page. So the AI settings are kind of important in respect to how you want to kind of go about building your game. So, for instance, what is the default LLM that you want to use? So like you can either say auto, and it will just choose depending on your request, it'll route it to the best available model that is there. Or of course you can like choose one of the other models. So for instance, if there's one specifically that you want to work with, go with it. Again, these are not just the default models that are provided. There's a lot of AI that goes into it from the Jabali side, uh, and a lot of like tuning and so on that kind of make these models what they are and why they're so useful in studio. So it's not using like GPT 5.3 is not equivalent to going to ChatGPT and typing something in. This is much more finely tuned towards making games and so on. You can choose your reasoning effort. So again, the more you put reasoning time in, the more it will think about what it is doing and the effects and implications of the same before it kind of does things. We have these modes that are there. So in this case, for instance, you can see that for this game, I have chosen collaborative mode, where Bali will check in periodically, provide updates, and confirm any significant actions. But you can also choose, like, okay, it makes change quickly, or it's more cautious, or it's more creative, and so on. This is where you can put any instructions that you want, that should be taken into account with every prompt or any conversation that you have with Bali. So, for instance, one good set of instructions that I would put here, which I've not put for this game, but I have for most of my other games that I'm working on, is like keeping the files very, very modular and short. So, like, I generally typically will tell Bali, make sure that all the files are as modular as possible, as short as possible, not more than mm, like maybe like 700 lines of code or 800 lines of code. After that, kind of start, if it can be more modular, break down things into different files, because the longer the file is, the longer it takes to kind of edit those files as well. uh, so that's something that you can always put into instructions, amongst other things. You can also put other things into instructions that say, like, for instance, always double check with me before producing assets, or always confirm, whatever it is that you want to put as instructions into your game. So those are the settings of your game. Then what other quick thing? Oh yeah, and then, like, of course, the create game screen. So here you can either like ask us to suggest an idea for you, and just like randomly generate some game ideas. There's also the choice of, like, so, but typically people just use vibe code, and that'll just create your game from scratch. However, you can, again, like, similar to the templates, you can choose a template and be like, this is the game that I'm imagining, and this is the idea that I want. I typically just go with vibe code, and then you can just start creating a game. So I don't know, I want to create. So when you're looking at prompting, prompting is fairly important. It helps if you have a game design document in mind, or many more details in mind about your game. Like, this is me coming up with something on the flash, but let me see if I can find a couple of examples of games where I put a lot more detail into the game. I think, as an example of a game, this would be one. So let me go back to the very top of the conversation. So this is what my actual original prompt was for this particular game that I made. So I was very, very detailed about it. I wanted a Indian card game collection. I said, like, here's my goal, uh here's what I wanted the thing to look like, and you can kind of see it got that pretty well. Like, it put in like Black Queen here, and then it said like coming soon for the next game, and it put that in here. um I explained like what the theming and the color scheme for my game was. I explained all the rules of Black Queen, which took a really long time to write down for AI. I explained how I wanted the play screen to be. So, like, have all the different characters. This is the center play area, and so on. Scoreboard, everything. So the more, and that was the end of my thing. But the more detailed you are with your prompt or your game design document, the better your game will be. And it's not necessary that this whole thing has to be what your prompt is. You could just say, I have a collection of game, like, you can just say, like, I want to build a game, I don't know, a card game based on Hanabi, uh, the fireworks game. Let's talk through the game design document first before you start building anything. Okay. And you'll kind of see that Bali will kind of ask you more questions about it. It's like, okay, a card game design inspired by Hanabi, firework game, cooperative, communication limited, cool. Do you want it in 2D? Does it matter to you? Say the game should be in 2D. Great. Um, Let it continue a bit longer. Phaser or Godot. So I'm going to say I want to use Godot with, let's talk through the style choices. So this is kind of how you can start building a game design document. So you can kind of see what the high level concept that the LLM kind of has suggested already. So because these LLMs are very fine, each of these models that are being selected are very fine tuned to game design by us in the AI team. You'll kind of see that it already knows the things that it expects you to talk about in your game design document. So what are the core loop? What are the rules, progression, UX, monetization, everything, co-pillars and so on. So it's like, okay, cool, you got it, Godot, let's talk about style choices. So it's like, here's some style things that it has kind of designed. Do we have a choice of these? Say, I want more playful cartoon fireworks style text and background. Okay, and then it'll kind of say, okay, cool, this is kind of what you want. uh do you want like strong symbol support for like colorblind people? Like, see, these are like good questions to ask. And so I strongly suggest like having a longer conversation about your game design document before going into the game itself. So for instance, at this point of time, I mean, say this is for the purpose of the demo, normally I would have a still a slightly longer conversation and kind of really get into details for these things. But whenever it is that you're happy with your game design document, you can say, okay, I'm good with all these choices, let's start building the game now. It'll kind of make a choice. I know it's asked me a question, but it'll try to make a choice as best as it can, since I said I'm good with any of these. So now it's going to load the template recommendations and Godot project recommendations and so on for you. So in this case, it it correctly chose that we have like a Godot 2D project, which is kind of what I want. It also gave me the phaser option. It says you can do a thing in 3D if you want, but that's not really what I'm looking for. I think that probably it'll tell you like this is a first person shooter, which is very different. If you look at the little text at the bottom, it's very different from your card game inspired Hanabi. It would require significant adaptation. This is what you want. We don't want this, so it's fine. There are other options that you can look at to see what it is that you want, but for now, I'm just going to go with a Godot 2D project and say start vibe coding. And we're going to start. Okay, so you'll see the whole conversation that you've had, including your starting thing, will all be part of the context of building this game. And now we're just going to let Bali kind of create this game for us. It'll start putting things together. And again, like this is for the purpose of this demo that I started building this game immediately. Normally, I would take a lot longer, talk through like creative choices, rules of the game, how to implement them, everything before I kind of go into creating a game. But in this case, for the demo, I'm just going to let Bali make most of these decisions for me. And it'll start putting together the code and the game mechanics and everything else that we need for this game. And as it starts putting these things together, and again, changing the AI settings will change how often Bali asks you for feedback on these scripts that it writes and so on. So you can have like a highly controlled mode where you say, okay, you like suggest everything and then I will approve everything. Or you can have a kind of more loosey goosey, let go and let it kind of do whatever it wants to do. I'm just gonna check to see if you guys have any questions in the meantime, but while that's working, um, you can send it to an email address, Lightedge. I'll send if you can text me or DM me, I will send you email to send everything to. Okay. Next person asked is, can you tell us what to add in models, behavior, and reasoning for getting maximum output? It really changes depending on the game that you're trying to create. Like there's nothing specific that works. There's no one fits all formula for this. Uh, where to prompt? I think I covered that. You can keep talking over here and you keep prompting here in this conversation or in that home screen where you initially write the prompt in. But as you start talking over here in the prompt and the chat conversation and the context, Bali will keep like making changes and building the game for you on the right over here. Um, as you have shown, you have access to a lot of models. How can we do that? I don't understand. All the models that I have access to, you have access to. So anything that you see here, you have access to. Um, does the AI generate unique assets for the game? Yes, it absolutely generates unique assets for the game. You can always upload your own 3D models, whether they are 3JS models or whether they are, I don't know, FPXs or whatever. So GLB files, you can always upload your own 3D models, uh, but yeah, the definitely have access to those. It will generate assets for you that it thinks it needs to. So it's still kind of creating the game. It's going to take some time. You'll see that the scripts are still building and being generated, but we have to wait a little while. It's going to take some time. I can't see all the files locally in my laptop using Studio. So all of the actually, let me stop sharing for a while I do these conversations. So all the Studio files are available for everyone. You should be able to see the Git on your local computer. Uh, Again, given that Studio is being used by so many people with such a wide variety of skill sets with these things, I would say don't modify your Git unless you know what you're doing. But it should be available to you if you want to look at your local Git. There'll be a .jabali folder within your user, which something on something like that. So it'll be like .jabali slash project slash your game ID for the game, and that's where your local Git is available. Again, don't mess with the Git unless you really know what you're doing. Sometimes it's helpful to like revert certain things if you rather than asking Bali to revert it if you really are being really specific about it. But just so you know, it is really hard to fix these things for you if you do corrupt your Git. Can the Jabali AI rig a non-rigged model that I upload? Not at the moment. We are working on kind of adding rigging and animation for 3D models. We don't yet have it. Right now, the models that are available are all on Jabali are all pre-rigged models that you can kind of directly pull from. Uh, I'm working on the AI requirements to rig the models automatically, but it will take a little bit of time. It will not be done for the game jam, basically. Again, it is a we are still in like startup phase, and it has been barely a year. So we're getting there. At the moment, if you have models that you need, you would have to like rig them yourself and put them in. What is your question? Like in the rules, it says AI should be an integral part. No, in the sense that we don't want you to just open up Jabali Studio and write your own code. We want you to kind of work in coordination with Bali and write your own code if you want to, of course. But like you need to use the studio as part of the jam. That's what it means. Not that you need a AI NPC character, but that you truly use the studio and Bali and all the vibe code or editing options that we give you in order to compete in the game jam. Like, we don't want you to just bring in a random Godot project. We don't yet have Jabali on Linux. We only have it on PC and, I mean, Windows and the Mac at the moment. That's a good question. We do have internal APIs to delete the game as well as hide the game, but I don't think those have been made available on Jabali Studios public version yet. I will try to make that available to you guys. For now, just ignore that one and just make a new game, and that's fine too. You don't have to delete the game, but I will try to get the, I guess, like delete or unpublish or whatever working for you guys. You